Hey everyone, welcome to Solo Party. My name is Kane, and we are going to be jumping into a Kingdom Death Monster campaign. I've got the new Gambler's Chest expansion with me, and so we're going to be trying out the campaign that comes with that, the People of the Dreamkeeper. This campaign has us starting out with a Crimson Crocodile prologue showdown instead of the regular White Lion prologue showdown. It also has its own opening, so let's get into that. Once upon a time, in a place of carved stone faces, a monster ate a tremendous meal. Its belly was so full that it could not move, so it slumbered. When the monster had digested, it awoke. It raised its curious head into the wind and smelled the despair of people stirring somewhere in the unbroken darkness. The monster licked its blood-caked snout and set off to investigate. The monster walked unhurried through the darkness, following the scent. It grew hungrier and hungrier as the scent got stronger. Its powerful heart pounded with joy as it came upon a great chest. The box reeked with delicious promise. The monster greedily nosed it open. How delectable they would be, if only their organs were bursting with fear. The monster toyed with its morsels, tasting their terror-tinged sweat as they skittered between its great big teeth. It laughed as they tickled it with their scrabbling hands, climbing to escape. There was one mouthful that did not taste of terror. She was not tender with despair. She reached between the monster's grasping fingers and freed a shard of stone. She took a deep breath and bellowed into the darkness, hoping her cries would reach someone. Somewhere in the place of stone faces, people raised a lantern to illuminate their doom. They knew they could not survive, yet they struggled just the same. These are the ones that taste best, thought the monster, delighted. So before we get started, I am going to assume that you know at least the core rules of at least base KDM, and I'll do my best to explain a lot of the new concepts as we go along, the new enemies, their traits and everything. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the new Crimson Crocodile and its traits. And so one of the new traits is the Enchanted Flesh. This is going to introduce coagulated hit locations, which look like this. And so whenever you're attacking that the monster, you need to be attacking the highlighted zone in order to be able to wound the location, or otherwise it's an automatic failure. And so these are going to be introduced into the hit location in a variety of ways. It also has the Immortal Presence trait. Hypnotized by fidgeting spine fingers, your body's fear response escalates. When a survivor has 0 insanity, we're going to be gaining the Terrified status. And so the monster has a lot of cards that interact with this Terrified status, most being bad, and honestly are a lot of instant kills. So we got to be paying attention to managing our insanity to make sure we don't get too many Terrified survivor statuses out on the board. And then lastly, we start with the Adrenal Adept. The monster disrupts your blood flow, preventing your body from coping with stress. So anytime we would gain insanity from a brain trauma, instead we're going to take a damage to a random body location. But now we can go ahead and start the battle. Due to prologue steps, we always know the first AI card and the first hit location. So the first one for this guy is the 21,000 Newton Bite. We are going to select Alistair, who is this guy right here, as our target, since they are all equally valid. And now you'll see under the move and attack, we have the synchronic attack, which is a new concept, but it's not going to apply here, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. You can also go ahead and see this attack actually does 21 damage, but that's only if you're terrified or deaf. So there's one of those things, that's why I got to pay attention to the Terrified status there. And so since we don't have that, it just goes down to 1. So we need to roll 3 or higher. Okay, so that's 2 hits. So our cloth armor will block the waste damage, but we will take a light injury to our hand. With Alistair, I'm going to go ahead and spin his 1 survival that he starts with to dodge that hand attack so we don't take any injury boxes. And since Alistair just took some damage, this is a great time to show off one of the other new mechanics with knowledge cards. All survivors randomly started with one of these starting knowledge cards, and Alistair's was Fear. And that's whenever you suffer damage, gain 1 observation box. And so you can see at the bottom, whenever we tick 3 observation boxes, we can automatically advance to Fear 2. So right now on its own, this is just a theory. It doesn't do anything inherently, but once we've suffered damage 3 times, we'll get to go to the next level and see what that does. So at the start of Survivor's turn, I'm going to use Lucy here to spin her Founding Stone for its special action to get a automatic hit that is a critical wound on this top hit location. as I've already mentioned, we know exactly what that is, so we know what we're doing here. So we critical hit on the 99 finger spine. Your attack shatters a translucent scab covering the stone faces on the monster's back. Find the sparkling upper back coagulated hit location and set it aside, then reshuffle the hit location deck and place the card on top. This also gives it the persistent injury exposed back. The monster panics, making it easier to hit. It gains a -1 evasion token. And so when we find the sparkling upper back, it looks like this. And so when we hit, we need to be at that highlighted location. And so while we didn't get a wound with that hit, we've set ourselves up just to make the Crimson Crocodile easier to hit for the rest of the fight, and then finish our turn with Lucy by moving her next to the blood pile here. And then, since we need to hit at this location, we're gonna go ahead and move Alistair in position to do just that. So with that -1 evasion token, we need to roll a 6 or higher. Okay, we got the 1 hit on the sparkling upper back. So we take a closer look. We're gonna get +3 strength to wound this location. So the toughness of the Crimson Crocodile at the prologue is 6, giving us 4 strength, so we only need to roll a 2 or higher in order to hit here. And that's an 8, so that is gonna hit and get our first wound. And so coagulated hit locations, once you're done with them, they stay in the hit location deck. So once they're added in, you're not gonna take them out once you resolve them. They're gonna stay in there, get shuffled back in. So now that we don't have a coagulated hit location, we can hit from anywhere. I think we're gonna go ahead and send Ursa right there into the blind spot. All right, so now we need 5 or higher with that added bonus from being in the blind spot. Okay, 1 more hit. Gives us the blushing foot knuckles. Looking for a 5 or higher. 7 is gonna be a hit. So that's another wound. And then now we have a compulsive reaction, another new mechanic here, but basically just is a reaction that cannot be canceled. And so this card is gonna archive itself and put a coagulated hit location into the deck. So basically replacing itself with one of the coagulated locations. Now I think Zachary here, while we have the opportunity, we're gonna go ahead and scavenge the survivor corpse. And a 4 is gonna give us 2 insanity and a random basic resource, archive the terrain. Okay, and that puts Zachary to 3 insanity, and we drew a monster bone. And then we'll finish by moving him up to the blood pool as well. On Croc's turn, we drew Delighted. When this comes into play, draw another AI card. The monster can barely contain its delight as a pungent foam leaks from its maw. While this is in play, the monster has a -1 accuracy and +1 speed for each terrified survivor. When a survivor dies, the monster is knocked down in excitement. Discard Delighted. Okay, so we did thin out the HP deck a little bit there, but now we really want to avoid those terrified status cards. And so then we drew a Hail of Fingers. Pick target closest threat in range, and we know Alistair has the fear knowledge, and so we want him to be hit, so I think we're choosing him for this. So another new mechanic, monsters have range cards now, and so monsters will move away from survivors to get into range. So the Crimson Croc will be taking a step back here, and then this attack gains +1 speed for each card in the monster's wound stack. All right, not too many yet. And so we're rolling with 3 die, and we need to roll 7 or higher to hit. Okay, this one scooted up a little bit so you can see. It's a 2, so that's gonna be 2 hits. To the hand and to the head. We don't have any armor on the head, so that will fill our box there and knock Alistair down. And then we take a light injury to the hand and check 1 more box on our fear. All right, I think I'm gonna start by sending Zachary over. With the -1 evasion token, we need 6 to hit. Okay, 1 hit there. And we ran our coagulated spot, so We drew the sparkling crimson gills. We get +3 strength to wound dislocation. Okay, so with 2 or higher, we'll get it. That's a 6, so another wound. I think we'll have Urza go, continue our good luck here. 6s or higher hit. There we go, a perfect hit. Not gonna matter here, but we drew the glossy tongue. This is a parry hit location, which is relevant for certain cards, but not to us right here. And there we go, an 8 is a hit. So we'll take a look at the blood pool real quick. I think we're just gonna have Lucy stop off here to gain some extra insanity, basically just not wanting to roll a 1 here, and then even if we're lucky, if we stand in the middle and roll a 10, then we'll gain the immortal trait. So you know, why not go ahead and try that? We'll just go here. Okay, a 4 gains us 1 insanity. Crimson Crocodile is now going to do a mocking bite, closest threat facing in range. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Lucy is in range. These 2 are behind the facing line. Three or higher to hit. It's gonna be 2 hits. Scoot this up. 1 to the body, 1 to the head, and after the damage, the monster chortles with you in its mouth. Gain the Terrified Survivor status card. If you already have it, you are knocked down. Okay, so Lucy is now terrified after taking those hits, as well as knocked down due to that head hit location, just lying down in the center of the blood pool. So while terrified, we'll check it out. You become guardless, which means you cannot ignore hits. And then if you have at least 1 insanity, you can take a moment to collect yourself, spending your action to archive this card. Okay, on the survivor turn, we're gonna start with Urza getting into the blind spot. Right in the center again. 5 or higher to hit. Okay, that's unfortunately 2 misses. Now let's run it back with Zachary. Okay, and that's gonna be 2 hits. We draw both the blushing body and the blushing stubby knee. So let's start here. 5 or higher to hit. Oh, just barely missed. Okay, so on a failure, the monster rolls without turning. Full move the monster to the left. On collision, survivors suffer monster level +1 damage, so 2 damage. Luckily, no one is in the path here, and going left for the monster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that will unfortunately cancel out the other attacks, but maybe that's good, because now that means they're not going to get the hit location, so that kind of worked out for us either way. All right, next we're going to send Alistair over into the blind spot. Okay, 2 hits, 6 and 5. All right, we're going for the blushing, bulging neck and the juicy jowls. We'll start with the one that doesn't have any reactions. Looking for a 5 or higher. That is a miss. Okay, at least nothing happens. Lashing and sticky, the acerbic smell of the monster's breath burns your nostrils. And would you look at that? We would have loved to have get that on the other one, but unfortunately we don't have a critical hit location here. We will wound it, which will still remove it to add another coagulated hit location to the deck. All right, so the Crimson Crocodile is going to do the Mocking Bite. Closest threat facing in range. We don't have any threats facing, so we go to closest survivor, so it turns to Alistair. Even in the blind spot, the Crimson Crocodile knows. I know she's in the center of the blood pool. Gonna be 3 or higher to hit. Hey, okay, only 1 hit there. gonna take one hit to the body. All right. So that last hit on Alistair is going to give us that third box in Fear that we need to upgrade to Fear 2. So I love the full art cards here. And so this gives us the ability, when a monster targets you, you may spend 1 survival to suffer the flea brain trauma once per showdown. All right, so we got to kind of just like a get out of there ability if we think, you know, we're about to take a finishing blow. All right, it's the start of our turn, and just the way things are positioned right now, Alistair is the only person who can actually hit the coagulated location. So we're gonna start with them. All right, and we'll go for that. 6s or higher to hit. 1 hit, just what we needed. Onto the Sparkling Claw. Okay, +3 strength. So a 2 or higher will wound. And that's a 9, okay. Let's have some fun with Lucy standing up out of that blood pool. No longer has a founding stone, so tearing at the Crimson Crocodile with the fist and tooth. Looking for 6 or higher to hit with the fist and tooth. Okay, so we got a perfect hit. Into the fleshy armpit. No strength bonuses, but it is deadly. So it'll crit on a 9 or 10, but otherwise a 6 or higher to wound. Okay, we still wound with a 7, I'll take it. And that gets rid of the last AI card to the wound stack. So now the Crimson Crocodile on the next wound will be defeated. Now that I'm thinking about it, Lucy has the Terrified status card. The Crimson Crocodile's basic attack kills terrified targets. So now I'm considering maybe throwing one of my last founding stones to guarantee a crit. I think I'll try with one of them. Let's see if we can even get there. Okay, I'll try one attack with Urza, and if we don't get it, then I think I'll have Zachary throw that stone. So let's go ahead. Six or higher to hit. Okay, 2 hits. To the Wrinkled Gums and the Pale Fin Base. I think I'm gonna start with the Pale Fin Base. 5 or higher to hit and kill the Crimson Crocodile. And that's an 8, so we got the kill. The reflex will not happen. The Crimson Crocodile is down for the first time, and definitely not the last. And now during the aftermath, we're gonna gain 1 hunt experience for everyone, of course, and the rewards, which are 4 basic resources, 4 Crimson Crocodile resources, and 1 White Lion resource from its dinner before we defeated it. And we are also gonna start out by gaining the Crimson Crockery settlement location. So let's get our resources and head to the settlement phase. So in our settlement phase, we are gonna start in a very similar way to the original prologue. We have our first Crimson Day instead of our first day. The survivors trust their kill. Putting their backs to the bloodbath, they set off, grimly dragging the squelching hulk into the darkness. Drawn by a soft glow, they approach a distant form. On a deep instinctual level, they know this place is safe and they make it their home. Roll a d10 to determine our starting population. All right. And this one has a cool caveat here. On a 7 or higher, not only do we get the max population bonus, we also gain the Bloody Cloth starting gear, which is just a 1 armor to any hit location. So we're really hoping for a 7 or higher. Let's see. Okay, a 4. That's not so great. So the lowest possible roll we could get. So we get 7 unnamed survivors plus our 4 returning survivors. So our population is starting off at 11. And since we don't have any deaths to update, we're gonna go straight into our first timeline event, the Dreamless Respite. Nominate a survivor to gesture over the roar of snores. The survivors approach a mass of dreaming bodies held aloft by a motionless giant. The snoring forms a dense roar that drowns all other sound. The nominated survivor's voice is swallowed by the din. The settlement gains the Dreamless language innovation, but they find it ineffective for communicating around the sphere of snores. They learn to communicate without sound. The settlement gains the Silent dialect innovation, The nominated survivor gains +2 understanding. Okay, so these are the 2 innovations we gained. Dreamless language, very similar to language, gives us the encourage, and we also get the silent dialect, which is a new survivor action. Fist pump, once per round if standing, spend a survival to gesture to a non-blind survivor, and they stand if knocked down. So just a different way to be able to stand people up that covers more ground. And now, much like in the core game, we build the innovation deck, same 6 starting innovations. And so after building the innovation deck, the settlement gathers around the giant guardian. Exhausted, the nominated survivor nestles in the overflowing robes of the encumbered creature. It remains still. Enthusiastically motioning for the others to join, the survivor names their settlement's guardian, the Dreamkeeper. And so we gain our first settlement location, Keeper of Dreams. Huddled in the Dreamkeeper's robes, the sudden horror of existence is replaced by a spreading sense of calm. Under the droning thrum of snores and sighs, they drift off into dreamless sleep. Remove any disorders. Okay, I don't think any of us gain any disorders, so we're good there. And then the nominated survivor gains the grounded ability. At any time, you may set your insanity to 0, 1, or 2, and that's once per lantern year. So now our survivors gather for their first meal. Nominate a survivor to raise a drink. The settlement gathers for their first meal. The nominated survivor raises their hands to mark the settlement's unity with a sanguine sip. Communal consumption benefits the ARC survivors' collective cognition. And so this is where we're going to build the collective cognition rewards deck. Collective cognition flourishes based on the variety and challenge of defeated monsters. When a monster is defeated, update the settlement victory section on the ARC settlement record sheet to determine changes to collective cognition. The survivors digest their feast, gain 1 collective cognition. And so gaining our first collective cognition will give our first collective cognition reward. So the start of our collective cognition unlocks the facets of existence, and we attain tier 1 philosophies. So again, we're about to get introduced to another mechanic. This kind of replaces the aging system as far as different ways that your survivor can progress throughout the game. And then the nominated survivor begins a discourse. The survivors examine the facets of existence through many lenses. Spirited debate erupts in the settlement as the survivors compare their viewpoints. I forgot to say who I nominate. Let's go ahead and choose Urza. And so now we're going to build the philosophy deck with the starting philosophy card, Survivalism, the core philosophy for this campaign, Dreamism, and then 2 random tier 1 philosophy cards. And then we're going to shuffle those cards and put Survivalism on top. Now the survivors share frantic reenactments of their tactics. And now we build the starting knowledge deck. So we all started with random ones, and now this is kind of like solidifying that into its own thing, kind of explaining it more. So we get the 4 starting ones: darkness, despair, fear, and hunger. And then if we leveled any of them up, we get to take those. So we know we got to the fear level 2. We also, on our character who had hunger, they gained a systemic pressure, which is another mechanic. It's going to subtract from your severe injury rolls, but just during the aftermath you gain 1. So we did the aftermath, we survived, we advanced to hunger 2. So we have fear 2, we have hunger 2, then we still have despair and darkness at level 1. And then the nominated survivor gains a random knowledge from the deck. All right, so 50% chance to get an upgraded one. We drew. Okay, we got hunger 2. So you must eat monsters to feed the monsters inside. When you depart, gain 1 survival, and then our observation condition, whenever you consume, gain 1. Okay, so anytime we consume, something we're going to pay attention to with this character, with Urza. Then they focus and ponder the darkness. With the sudden acceleration of culture, the nominated survivor sees the path unfolding before them. Surviving the darkness is paramount. They gain hunt experience up to their first milestone and adopt a philosophy. And since we already know we put survivalism on top, Urza adopts the survivalism philosophy. So the inside of every philosophy book is going to look kind of similar to this. And then so you can kind of see the main things here. You're going to get a negative neurosis, a positive tenet, which is a knowledge. It's going to tell you how to track your hunt experience, so it's different for each philosophy. And then so you can see selfish here is explained right here, and then you'll get the knowledge card for tenacity, and then we can just proceed to rank 1. Rank 1 survivalism, only you. You are alone. All that matters is your survival. Adapt to survive. Gain +1 Lumi and roll a d10. Okay, so an 8, pretty good. Your survival is in your hands alone. You must make them strong. Gain strength training knowledge. However, you exercise past the point of exhaustion and lose all your survival. And then, so it's not going to be relevant, but you can kind of see it here. If we had a 9 or 10 and collective cognition 5, we would also be doing this as well. Same down here. If we had 11 when we did this, we have another thing we could unlock here. But as it is, that's all it is. We're going to gain that strength training. And now we go to seal our fate at the extinguished guidepost. Just outside the settlement, they gather to form a deadly pact. A death pact is formed. They will return with a kill or not at all. Gain the death pact innovation and the outskirts settlement location. Replace a random basic hunt event card with the scout basic hunt event card. An ill-omened stench spreads through the settlement. Following the smell, the survivors reach an extinguished guidepost. The foul wind moans through its darkened lamp. On the ground, the survivors find a waxy gray object. Its eye-watering smell prevents them from seeing it clearly. Gagging and weeping, they roll it in layers of cloth until its smell is merely repulsive. The survivors contrive a use for the dreaded pack. Nominate a survivor to accompany the hunting survivors. The dreaded burden is lifted onto their shoulders. They are the scout this lantern year, and they feel a grim responsibility. So let's go ahead and have Zachary be our scout, who's going to gain the scout gear grid, which looks like this. Only 4 slots for gear. And then roll a d10. Not the best. The scout's body adjusts to the weighty burden. Even the smell seems to fade into the background. Without the bundle, the scout feels exposed. They gain anxiety disorder. Okay, I mean, not the worst. At the start of each showdown, gain the priority target token unless you have stinky gear grid in your gear grid. So during our settlement phase, the first thing I want to do is innovate. So we did get 4 endeavors for all of our survivors making it back. So we will spin a bone, hide, and organ. And so between hovel and ammonia, I think because I know we need ammonia for this Groom the Dreamkeeper action, I think I'm gonna go for ammonia where I normally go hovel. So yeah, we'll go ammonia. I think I will go ahead and use my last 3 endeavor just to get the Bonesmith, Organ Grinder, and Skinnery out. Next, we're gonna spend the Crimson Bone and Pale Fingers on the Crimson Helm, and the Pale Flesh and an Organ on the Crimson Guard. I then am going to pick up a Skull Helm from the Bonesmith and some Bone Darts. And I think we're going to hold on to that Immortal Tongue for now, and that'll be it for our development phase. Thanks for joining me as I check out the new KDM content, guys. This is Solo Party. My name's Kane. I'll see y'all next time.